You ever walk into a place and feel the air shift before anyone even looks at you? Not because you're the tallest, not because you're the richest, not because you announced yourself. Something quieter, something heavier. Women don't turn their heads because they heard your name. They turn because their nervous system just registered a different frequency in the room. One man walks in, and every feminine body unconsciously leans a fraction closer. Another man walks in with better shoes, better jawline, better bank account, and nothing moves. The difference has never been money. It has never been looks. It has never been words. It's gravity. Real gravity, the kind a man creates when he finally stops orbiting other people and becomes his own damn sun. Most men spend their entire lives trying to be chosen. They text faster. They apologize quicker. They bend further. They explain more. They think if they just prove they care hard enough, someone will finally care back the same way. And every single time they do that, attraction dies a quiet death. Because desire is not built on effort. Desire is built on restraint. Desire is built on space. Desire is built on the terrifying possibility that she might not be the center of your universe. Because something bigger already is. Today, I'm not giving you tricks. I'm not giving you lines. I'm not giving you games. I'm giving you 5 ways of being, 5 internal laws, that when you live them, women feel you before they see you. They feel you across a crowded bar. They feel you in the silence after a text. They feel you when you haven't spoken in 3 days. And when a woman feels a man like that, her body decides long before her mind catches up. Law 1, become dangerously slow. The average man moves at the speed of his anxiety. He sees a pretty girl and his fingers are already typing. She doesn't reply in 10 minutes and he's already double texting. She posts a story with another guy and he's already spiraling. Speed is the scent of scarcity. Fast movement screams, I have to lock this down before it disappears. And nothing dries a woman up faster than the smell of fear. The man who owns the room moves like he's underwater. Not lazy, not arrogant, just unhurried. He reads her message and waits an hour. Not because some guru told him to, but because he was in the middle of something more important than performing for her validation. He walks into a date 15 minutes late without apology, not because he's rude, but because his time is governed by his own rhythm, not her expectations. When he touches her for the first time, his hand doesn't rush to prove anything. It arrives like it was always meant to be there. Slowness is dominance wearing a disguise. Slowness says, I am not afraid of losing you because I am not afraid of being alone with myself. And that single energy flips the entire script. Suddenly, she's the one checking her phone. Suddenly, she's the one asking, is everything okay? Because the moment a man stops reacting at the speed of his hormones, a woman starts reacting at the speed of hers. Law 2, build a life that would be a crime to interrupt. Most men treat their life like a waiting room for the right woman to walk in and give it meaning. They have half-finished goals, half-kept promises, half-lived dreams. They wake up, scroll, jerk off, go to a job they hate, come home, drink, repeat. And then they wonder why no woman wants to step into that energy. A woman can smell aimlessness from across the street. It feels like quicksand. Now imagine a man whose mornings are sacred. He wakes up before the sun because the first hours belong to him alone. He trains his body like it's a weapon he might need one day. He reads things that make his mind sharper. He builds something, anything, a business, a skill, a legacy that grows whether anyone is watching or not. His calendar is not empty, waiting to be filled by someone else's plans. His calendar is full of commitments to himself. When a woman enters that life, she doesn't become the main character. She becomes a beautiful guest in a story that was already epic. And guests don't disrespect the house. Guests don't make demands. Guests feel honored to be invited. That's the difference between a man who gets chased and a man who does the chasing. One has a life that intimidates distraction. The other has a life that begs for it. Law 3, master the pause between feeling and acting. Every man knows the moment. She says something that stings. She pulls away. She gets emotional. She tests you. 99% of men fail right there. They either explode or they collapse. They either attack or they appease. Both are weakness wearing different masks. The strongest man on earth is the one who can feel rage, jealousy, lust, fear, all of it burning in his chest, and still choose his response. Instead of letting the feeling choose for him, he doesn't ignore the emotion. He feels it fully, then decides what it deserves. Sometimes it deserves a smirk. Sometimes it deserves silence. Sometimes it deserves a slow, "I see you," and a walk away. But it never deserves his peace. I knew a guy once 6'4", built like a statue, made millions before 30. Women threw themselves at him, and every single one left within months. Why? Because the second they showed any resistance, he would unravel. He would argue for hours. He would beg. He would explain himself into the ground. He had everything except the one thing that actually matters, an unshakable center. The day he learned to sit in the fire without moving, women stopped leaving. They started fighting to stay. Because a woman can live without your money, your looks, your status, but she cannot fully surrender to a man whose frame collapses the moment she applies pressure. Law 4, speak like every word costs you $1,000. Weak men use language to fill emptiness. They talk to be heard. They talk to be liked. They talk to keep her attention. Strong men use language like a sniper uses bullets. One shot, one kill. No explanation needed. Watch any man who naturally pulls women without trying. He doesn't narrate his life. He doesn't explain his jokes. He doesn't defend his decisions. He says less than is comfortable. And in that negative space, her imagination goes to work filling in the blanks with the most attractive version of him possible. Mystery is not a tactic. Mystery is what happens when a man has so much going on inside that he doesn't need to advertise it. When he does speak, his voice is low, slow, and certain. He doesn't ask for permission in his tone. He doesn't end sentences with right. Or you know what I mean, he states. He teases, he commands, he disappears. And every word lands harder because there are so few of them. Law 5, fall in love with the version of you that exists when she's gone. This is the final and deepest law. Most men only feel alive when a woman is mirroring desire back at them. Take her away and they deflate. Their mood depends on her mood. Their worth depends on her validation. That is not love. That is addiction wearing love's clothing. The man who is dangerous to lose is the man who is already complete. He enjoys her wildly when she's there. He misses her when she's not. But he does not become smaller in her absence. He has rituals, brotherhood, creation, solitude, all of it rich and full and non-negotiable. She is the dessert, never the meal. And women can smell the difference between a man who wants them and a man who needs them, like oxygen. One feels like freedom. The other feels like a cage. When you truly internalize that your peace is not for sale at any price, something wild happens. You stop auditioning, you stop performing, you stop fearing loss because you have already survived the worst. Case scenario, being alone with yourself and discovering you are enough. And paradox of paradoxes, the moment a man becomes impossible to manipulate with attention or sex or tears is the moment women start doing crazy things to keep him. They start planning futures. They start introducing him to parents. They start crying when he leaves the room for 5 minutes. Because for the first time in her life, she is in the presence of a man who loves her fully but needs her zero. And that combination is the most addictive drug on earth. So let me leave you with this. Everything you have ever wanted from women, respect, desire, obsession, loyalty, will never come from getting better at chasing. It will only come from becoming impossible to chase down. Become the man whose silence makes her nervous. Become the man whose calendar makes her fight for a spot. Become the man whose emotional weather doesn't change when hers does. Become the man who can walk away without anger and return without ego. When you do that, you will never again ask how to make her want you. The question will reverse. She will lie awake wondering how to make you stay, and you will smile, say nothing, and go back to building the life that made her want you in the first place. That is the quietest flex a man can ever have. Not the car, not the body, not the follower count. Just an unshakable core that turns every room he enters into his room. Walk like that, live like that, love like that, and watch the world bend in ways no script, no line, no tactic could ever force. If this hit you in the chest, do one thing. Don't just pause it right now, open your notes app, and write one sentence. I stop performing today. Then live the rest of your life proving that sentence true. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay dangerous, not to others, to your own weakness,